We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Good morning, welcome in. It is Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles, happy to be with you as always. A Friday edition of final day of February. The madness begins tomorrow, and we will be fully getting you ready for the NCAA tournament, the conference tournaments. Conference tournaments technically begin on Sunday. How about that already? You see this Super Bowl later, an extra week in the NFL season means March Madness gets going even sooner than we realize. So looking forward to that over the next month here at Sports by the Book here at the studio. We got plenty to get to today. Duane Colucci will join us in about a half hour. We'll have some college hoops. We'll ask Duane about the big game in the NBA. We'll see where Duane's head is at on the NHL and much more here on the show today. Yesterday, really not that much of note. Really the biggest thing yesterday in a college basketball perspective, I wish it was a college football perspective, Michigan won another game by less than 4 points. Wolverines stun Rutgers, get a buzzer beater, win at 84-82. Again, Michigan, it was Nimari Burnett who made the buzzer beater. Michigan now was 14-3 in the Big Ten. Probably going to get a top 16 seed in the NCAA tournament. And when I say that, I mean a 1, 2, 3, or 4 line, probably a 4 line. Michigan has not won a game by more than 4 points since January 12th. Their record since then is 9-3. They've won 9 games by 4 or less. That is more likely than not, and just keep this in mind as we get to March, probably not sustainable. By the way, their last 3 games of the regular season, Illinois, Maryland, and Michigan State on the road in East Lansing. Pretty tough gauntlet to end the regular season for the Michigan Wolverines. So we're looking at that right now for Michigan right now in that Big Ten. They are ahead of Michigan State technically right now in the standings. Or excuse me, they're tied, I should say. They're both 14-3, both with 3 to go. If Michigan beats Michigan State in East Lansing, they'll get the 1 seed in Indy. If Michigan State, more likely than not, beats Michigan in that game, they'll get the 1 seed, even with a game against Wisconsin coming up on Sunday for the Spartans. Other than that, really not much. A night ago, NHL, a lot of goals. VGK with 5 in the first period. Does that mean five orders of free fries from across the street? Does that mean that? No. Should be. It should be however many goals in the first period times 5 here in the Valley. But the Golden Arches, you can get your free fries through the app. I know Sean will be doing that as soon as he leaves here later today. Not much else betting wise to really be had last night. You heard from Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders in Indianapolis yesterday. You saw Anthony Edwards now facing a suspension because he has too many technicals this year. LeBron went after the media because of the whole discussion of Anthony Edwards not wanting to be the quote-unquote face of the NBA. Not that much going on from a betting perspective a day ago. By the way, the JR Invitational, which is no longer the JR Invitational because he was defeated yesterday, up again in the bottom line. You see us right now. Right now, the promotion going across. Ralph Sirocco, who's here Wednesday through Sunday at 7 a.m., getting you ready for the day in horse racing across this country. There's going to be a trivia question on the bottom there that will appear in a few moments. Well, let's put it this way. It's a recent answer today. The recent answer here on February the 20th. It's kind of crazy. We're already at the end of February. Also not a leap year, so we're actually going to March tomorrow on that first Saturday of March. All right. Let's go to college hoops. Let's go to college hoops here. A better Friday slate than usual. Obviously, next week we're really going to start getting kick-started because conference tournaments, especially the smaller ones, will fully be underway starting next week. Even the A-Sun gets started on Sunday afternoon with the 10-9 and the 8-7 games. But we start in the Ivy because Fridays are made for the Ivy, and we start with a Ivy tournament bubble game. Remember, the top 4 seeds will go to the Ivy tournament this year in Providence on Brown's campus, and Brown is involved right here in a game in Cambridge here tonight to take on Harvard. So, right now, here are the standings in the Ivy. Yale is going to be the number 1 seed. They're 11-0. They're going to be the number 1 seed. Dartmouth, surprisingly enough, the 2 seed, we'll get to the Yale-Dartmouth matchup in New Hampshire in a moment, 7-4. They're the 2 seed. Princeton and Cornell are both 6-5. They play each other in Ithaca on Sunday. Brown and Harvard are both 1 game behind Cornell and Princeton, who are both 6-5. So this is a ginormous game in Cambridge tonight. Now, this open pick, now got bet up to 1.5, and now Circa and Superbook both moved back to pick earlier in the morning. So if you like Harvard, you bet them behind me. If you like Harvard, you bet them behind me because that's the best number, period, on Harvard. If you like Brown, bet them somewhere else. And for me, I would be betting them somewhere else today. If you look at these 2 teams, the first matchup, Harvard went to Providence and beat Brown by 13 points. What happened in that game was a little bit of an anomaly for Harvard. A pretty weak offensive team had a good offensive game, about 1.2 points per possession, which is pretty darn good. Brown, on the other hand, was held sub 1 point per possession. Not good. Not a good outing for Brown. Yeah, Harvard shot over 40% from 3. Harvard, a team this year from the 3-point line, who's been about 34.5%. Pretty good. Top 3rd in the nation, but still shot over their heads in that game. So that's why I like the Brown Bears here in this game. They're just a better basketball team, even though this has been a Brown team that was an epic collapse from stealing an NCAA tournament bid from a year ago. Yale ended up coming back, winning that game, and of course won a game in the tournament last year in Spokane, beating Auburn. But this Brown team is better. And even on the road, I like them here tonight. Like them here tonight. Find the pick 'em, which is readily available in the market on Brown in this one. Also, I think I kind of like this game under as well. That first game was better shooting than normal from Harvard. I would expect this probably to be a little bit of a slower pace as well. So lean to the under, like Brown in this one. All right, let's go to New Hampshire. Dartmouth, who look didn't expect much of anything from them this year. They were 4-7 in their first 11 games. Now they go through the Ivy League. They're 7-4. If they go 2-1 these last 3 games, even with being a nice-sized dog against Yale here tonight, they're going to go to the Ivy tournament, which would be quite the surprise for Dartmouth. Usually one of the weaker teams in the Ivy. Now, they faced a behemoth in the Ivy of Yale here tonight. Yale, a legitimate top 70 team in KenPom. Winners of 7 in a row. 12 in a row, I should say. They're undefeated in conference play. They're going to be close to a double-digit favorite in all remaining games, including tonight, and then even with their 3 remaining games on the road, they're going to be double digits at Harvard, and they're going to be close to it at Brown as well. This is not a flat spot for Yale. Even with having the 1 seed wrapped up, I think the flat spots come in the next 2 games at Harvard. Well, I don't know if Yale's ever flat against Harvard because of knowing that rivalry. But that last Saturday of the year when they go to Brown, that could be the flat spot. But I don't think this is a flat spot tonight. The total's 155. The big question mark is, can Dartmouth score enough? We know Dartmouth wants to run. They're a top 20 tempo in the country. First matchup between these 2 teams at a 76-possession game landed 83-67. So a $150 it landed. But it had the tempo to go over. So this total, open 154.5, got bet as high as 156.5, and now at 155. You could look to the over at 155. That'd be the only thing I'd consider here. But it's not strong enough to make it as an official play here in this one. But you could look to the over on Yale and Dartmouth here in this one. All right, let's go to Connecticut next. Sacred Heart and Marist in the MAC with 2 A's. So this MAC with 2 A's right now, there's only 2 teams outside the top 200 on a good side. And that's Quinnipiac, who's 199, and Merrimack, who's 190. Marist, tied for the conference lead with Quinnipiac, is 20-5. And they've kind of done it with smoke and mirrors this year. Really good defense, horrible offense. Actually still negative on the points because of how bad their offense is. Only about 100 points per possession. Per 100 possessions, I should say. Not per possession. That'd be the greatest offensive team of all time with that. Now they get Sacred Heart. Of course, Sacred Heart, first year in the MAC with 2 A's. They've done okay for themselves. They're 500 in the league. They're terrible on defense. They play fast. This is all going to be dependent on which tempo wins out. Now, I think Marist is the better team, even with their flaws. And wish it was about plus 115 on the money line. Be pretty good if you got that. Not much of a home court there in Sacred Heart, but it would be a lean to the road dog in this one. I just think they're the better basketball team. This should have been more of a pick, maybe even a Marist -1 on the road in this spot. All right, to Richmond next. VCU beat up on their rival earlier this week. They beat Richmond. Covered the number pretty methodically. Now they get Davidson, who pretty average basketball team. They're projected for 7-11 in the league, 6-9 overall. VCU, by the way, back in first place, holding the tiebreaker over George Mason for the 1 seed in the A-10 tournament in Brooklyn in 2 weeks. This is a big number at 14.5 with a total of 141.5. The bid did get bet down. It was 15.5. So they did take Davidson down a whole point here. But I would tread carefully. VCU, realistically speaking, if they win out the regular season, get to the semifinal of the A-10 tournament, and lose, still should be okay to make the NCAA tournament. You lose any of these 3 remaining games, granted, Dayton, the regular season finale, Dayton is a legitimately good top 100 team in KenPom. They go on the road to Pittsburgh to Duquesne, who's pretty average. You got to win out these games to make sure that the committee doesn't hose you if you don't win the A-10 tournament. Even with a regular season title, this is not a strong league. This league has not been particularly strong over the last few years. Again, not to say there aren't teams that are live to beat VCU in an A-10 tournament. Dayton, St. Joe's, St. Louis, George Mason. There are some Loyola, who's playing some great ball right now as well. There are some live teams that can beat VCU in Brooklyn. So for VCU, just racking up as many wins as humanly possible before the A-10 tournament is important. And doing it with style as well also plays out here. So I'd be looking at VCU if anything here, but it is a ton of points to be looking at with 14.5 on this one. All right, back to the MAC with 2 A's. Quinnipiac, St. Peter's, not your same St. Peter's team anymore. Again, it's a very weak conference this year, the MAC with 2 A's. Quinnipiac, to me, the best team in the league. Again, all these teams do something really poorly. Quinnipiac, despite their top 20 tempo in the country, are 259th in offense. Again, kind of like this bizarro World UC Irvine style. Horrible on offense, great, good on defense. Irvine is great. Quinnipiac is good. Play ridiculously fast. Weirdo style. They get St. Peter's, who's just on the cusp of being in the bottom 60 in KenPom. Just not the same sort of team again. That program clearly peaked with that Elite 8 2 years ago now. It's 10.5. Now, St. Peter's wants to slow the game down, and they're terrible on offense also, the bottom 25 offense. It's just a matter of can they find enough offense to play in this game. But again, playing Quinnipiac, strength is their defense, even with the quick style. I think St. Peter's is going to struggle to score in this game, even with a faster tempo. Up from 8.5 makes it very difficult to lay a big number, a double-digit, worst of the number with Quinnipiac. But I would be very careful of taking the underdog here just because they can't score on offense. All right, let's go to Ithaca next. Cornell and Penn. Cornell, like we said, right on the Ivy bubble. They currently are sitting in 3rd. They have a huge game on Sunday against Princeton. Historically, Cornell owns Princeton and Ithaca. They get Penn, who I thought was going to be better this year, really did. Been a little bit of a disappointment under Steve Donahue. Of course, a return to Ithaca for Donahue, who, of course, got Cornell almost 15 years ago, almost 16 years ago now, got Cornell to the Sweet 16 before they ran into John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and Kentucky. I like this game over, even at the ridiculous total of being a 159.5. But Cornell wants to run. We know this about Cornell. And Penn's defense is awful. You get Cornell into the 90s here, which I think is more than in play. By the way, first time around for these teams was 86 to 76. So you were good on this sort of total. You're 162. There's no reason to think Cornell can't get to 90 in this game. Just a matter of getting yourself enough there with Penn. But if Cornell gets to 90 and 8.5, you should be there pretty easily. So maybe even look for a Cornell team total over as well in this one. But we'll be looking to the over at 159.5. All right, let's go to the Big Apple here. Columbia hosting Princeton. Princeton starts the New York swing of the Ivy with Columbia and then up to Ithaca over the weekend. So this is a big bouncer here. 4.5 open, as low as 3.5, as high as 5.5, now 4. And quite frankly, I agree with the confusion in the market on this. Columbia is not a total pushover. Now, again, Columbia won at Villanova earlier this year, thought Columbia was going to be a big threat in this league. They had not turned out. They're 1-10. They've really struggled in the league. But even with the bad record, they have been up until the last 4-game losing streak where they've gotten throttled. They've lost every game by double digits. They were competitive in conference play until this recent stretch, even with the bad record. Princeton, to me, I thought going into conference play was the best team in this league, even with how good Yale was. Started out 3-0, and then since then have been blah. They're 3-5 since that 3-0 start in conference play. I don't know what to do here. I think the market being a little bit bamboozled by this game is makes sense. Total about right. Princeton efficient offense. Columbia wants to run. Yeah, I would steer clear. Tough game in the Ivy. I will tell you, I won't be here on Sunday because it'll be Alex and Kenny, as it usually is. Fade Princeton in Ithaca, always. Cornell owns them in Ithaca on Sunday. This game, no play. Sunday against Cornell, look to bet Cornell, just look at what the number ends up being. All right, let's go to Ryder and Merrimack. This is in the MAC with 2 A's. Merrimack currently your conference leader and the number 1 team in KenPom in this league. It's just kind of crazy to me. Got a win last weekend in New Rochelle against Iona in overtime. Now they get Ryder, who's not any good at all. Just tread carefully in this game. It's a 10.5 with a 130. Super, super low total for a double-digit number. So I would be very, very careful laying this here in this game with Merrimack. I'd also be careful betting the under, even though we know Merrimack wants to slow this game the heck down. So be careful on this one. All right, let's go to the Sun Belt next. A few games in the belt today. The one that stood out the most to me was Texas State and JMU. Texas State has been bet to a 1-point favorite in this game. Feels like we bring up Texas State every single time we bring up the Sun Belt at this point. JMU's won 5 in a row. This is the regular season finale. Sun Belt tournament gets going next week. I think the wrong team is favored in this game, personally. Now, if you look at the standings, James Madison, with a win, will clinch the 1. Completely, no tie breaks for JMU. There's a collection behind them in Arkansas State and Troy. Where's that Arkansas State game, actually? Did they not play Arkansas State? They beat Troy. Oh, they beat Arkansas State. So actually, you know what? I'm going to change my tone here a little bit. I still think the wrong team is favored, but with JMU having that 1 seed wrapped, I understand why Texas State, sorry, Mr. Ed, totally missed in my notes there. Texas State has a little more desperation factor, but still think the wrong team is favored, even with it being a bad spot for JMU in this one. All right, let's go to West Lafayette next. UCLA takes on Purdue. We know UCLA struggles outside of the West Coast this year. They have 1 win on the road outside of the Mountain Time Zone. And that was 2 weeks ago in Bloomington against, at the time, a very struggling Indiana team who's starting to play a little bit better. Purdue has lost 4 straight games. Kind of feels like the nut spot here for Purdue, right? Playing against a team that has struggled on the road away from Pauley Pavilion. Back at home, 4 straight losses. Kind of feels like a spot for Purdue to get themselves right. Would lean to the lay of the 5.5 here. I understand when some of the market opened 5 and bet this up. This is a good spot for Purdue to get their act together with the 4 straight losses coming to an end here tonight. Maybe even find a money line partner here for Purdue in the Big Ten here against UCLA. But you feel comfortable laying the 5.5 in this one here tonight. All right, Northwestern and Iowa. Huge game for Big Ten seeding. Throw those standings back up real quick, Sean. So we've talked about this. Bottom 3 doesn't go. And right now there's this cluster from 11 through 16 with either 7 or 6 wins. Northwestern currently at 6-11. Iowa currently at 6-10 and 11 as well. Northwestern ends with UCLA and Maryland. Going to be dogs in both of those games. Iowa ends with Michigan State and at Nebraska. Going to be dogs in those games as well. This is a gigantic game for seeding purposes. The winner of this game is in really good shape to make the Big Ten tournament. The loser of this game is in big trouble. Now, Iowa wants to run, Northwestern not so much. This is probably a good under game because of just, this plays like a playoff game, doesn't it? Tighter, a little more defense. Like this game under with Iowa and Northwestern. Would also lean to the dog here as well, taking the points. Dog and under makes a lot of sense. But I would be, boy, neither of these teams are all that good. It's part of the reason that they're in this mess right now to potentially miss the Big Ten tournament right now with Iowa and Northwestern. All right, let's go to the MAC. Huge game in the MAC. Akron, the top team in the MAC, takes on Kent State, who is the number 2 Ken Palm team, even though they're not currently second in the standings. Akron's a 4-point favorite in this game. Akron has only lost one time in conference play. That came last Saturday against Ohio. Kent, again, playing better after a wayward 4-5 start. The first matchup between these two teams was a 14-point Akron win on the road at Kent. There's no reason to think this won't be Akron again here today as a 4-point favorite. Now, it's not the greatest of spots. Akron needs to win one of the remaining 3 in order to get the 1 seed in the MAC tournament. But home court, better team, like the Zips here against the Flashes, lay the 4 in this game with Akron. Maybe this is maybe this is your Purdue Akron moneyline parlay. Actually, maybe do that. Maybe you look at that here today on that. All right, Battle of Nevada. Last up in college hoops for me today. Unless if you have a game you want to bring up, and that we didn't bring up, we can bring it up with Duane Colucci, who will join us momentarily. Nevada, 2.5 on the road here in Vegas against UNLV. Middling teams here in the league. We've talked about Nevada being a disappointment in the Mountain West. Too much talent to be underwater in this league, where they are right now. They're a 2-point favorite. By the way, they're going to end up underwater more likely than not. They get New Mexico, and then they go to Viejas in the regular season. I don't know what to do with this game. The only thing I'll say is it feels like the total may be low, but we know both of these teams want to play slow. And we know UNLV's defense significantly better than their offense. So this is a tread carefully game. Not much of a difference between the 6 and the 7. They both have to play in the opening round of the Mountain West tournament. Those top 5 seeds are pretty well locked at this point. Boise's going to play Boise, San Diego State, Colorado State, Utah State, New Mexico. All are going to get that bye into the quarters, which would set up an interesting San Diego State-Boise State game where Boise's more on the bubble than the Aztecs if those standings hold. But I would tread carefully here. By the way, I don't know if our guy Joey B is listening, and I gave Joey B a lot of flack yesterday on Punchlines. Colorado State is live to steal that bid in this league, and they're going to be down the board in the odds. They're going to be down the board. Utah State, New Mexico, San Diego State, Indiana. I don't even think Boise will be shorter odds when those conference tournament odds come out. So be on the lookout for that when they come out next a week from now when these tournaments are all set up. All right, real quick, just checking in with the chat. Wow, totally forgot Dean Hilt went to that, on paper, dreadful game between Long Beach and Bakersfield. Game ended on a buzzer beater in overtime with Bakersfield eking it out 88-87. So you saw a hell of a game between two horrible teams. By the way, Long Beach officially eliminated from Big West tournament contention. Only 8 come to Henderson for that one. Of course, coming up in the near future. All right, let's hit a break. Duane Colucci will be with us in a few moments after that break. We have NBA, we have hockey, we have more to get to with Colucci when we get back. Sports by the Book live here at the South Point studio.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books, 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat. If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu, plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here on a Friday morning. We're awaiting Duane Colucci. He'll be with us momentarily, just getting out of a meeting. So we'll let him get all set up, and we'll bring him in when he is ready. Some NFL news. How about that? Never stops, right? The Matthew Stafford is going to leave Los Angeles. Nonsense was nonsense. I was thinking of a different word, but we got to be family appropriate every once in a while. So Stafford and the Rams reach a extension, a restructuring, not even an extension. So there's a restructuring. That's Adam Schefter, not Adam Silver, Adam Schefter, and others on that. So the Giants and the Raiders still looking for Tennessee. You got to imagine that the price for the number 1 pick just continues to go up, even in a quarterback draft that is lacking with guys that I would not use the number one pick on, unless if I was completely desperate in Shador and Cam Ward. I would still take Abdul Carter even with the foot issues. Schefter then followed it up with Matthew Stafford remaining with the Rams. The New York Giants are investigating all veteran quarterback options, including Aaron Rodgers. At this point, just to bring up Aaron Rodgers, because it all comes back to Aaron Rodgers, there are only three places that make sense at this point for him. The Steelers, the Raiders, and the New York Giants. Don't think that's a thing, regardless of what it is. Don't think it'll happen. It'll be very, very interesting to see. Be very interesting to see what happens with Rodgers the rest of this offseason at this point. I'm just curious with Stafford more than anything. This could have also just been a dalliance to see how much he was worth on an open market, and maybe those numbers were not as good, or maybe it's like, hey, Rams, let's just get this done. It never made sense to me. Like, unless if the Rams thought Matthew Stafford was done, he's never leaving. Let's be realistic with ourselves on that. It'll be very fascinating to see, though, what happens the rest of this carousel as well. If the Giants end up with Aaron Rodgers, though, boy, that'll be so interesting to see what happens with that. All right, Sean, let's take a quick 30. I see Duane is ready for us. We'll make sure Duane's audio and everything's all set. And I'll talk to Colucci on the other side in 30 seconds right here on Sports by the Book. Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles, and now joining us, our good friend, the best, DA best, as we always know, our good friend up at the Rampart, runs a racing sportsbook up there, wearing Friday red, not Sunday red, for our good friend Duane Colucci here today.
Friday red, yeah, I love it. Red alert this Friday.
So Duane, I want to start with what I just ended with before we get into a huge matchup in the NBA tonight between the top two teams in the East, and also, too, the college hoops regular season winding down over this next week plus. So Matthew Stafford ends up going back to the Rams. I always thought it was kind of nonsense, in all honesty. I thought, all right, if he leaves, the only place that makes sense is the Raiders. He's not leaving. He's staying in L.A. But the report that just came out that makes it more interesting to me is Diana Rossini and Adam Schefter both saying that the New York Giants are turning their attention potentially to Aaron Rodgers, which I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's only three realistic spots for him. The Giants, the Steelers, who I don't know if the Steelers are willing to put up with the nonsense that comes with Rodgers, and the Raiders. The question with that would be, would the Raiders be willing to take Devontae Adams back? But this could be one of one for destinations here, potentially for Rodgers. And boy, if he just goes to the other team in the same building, that would create quite the time in New York there, Duane.
Well, the whole question, Jeff, is, I guess, his neighbors better than Garrett Wilson? I mean, I don't know. How much does Aaron have left in the tank is the whole key. I would think that the Giants would be more inclined to rebuild, basically. You have no running game. You have a great wide receiver. Quarterback is definitely, it has to be addressed, that position. But, it's so hard to gauge the NFC East when you look at it. And, I'm a Cowboys cowboy guy, it's so scary. I mean, you know, you have Hurts, you have Jaden Daniels, and Dak Prescott, if he comes back healthy, all three very good quarterbacks. I mean, the top two that I mentioned are superstars when you're dealing with Hurts and Daniels. They just played for a championship. So, you know, I guess they want to get into the mix with a superstar name. And if Aaron Rodgers could keep his head screwed on and not get frustrated, but it's hard not to get frustrated when you're playing against Prescott, Daniels, and Hurts. So, you know, I don't know what the Giants are thinking. They should have never let Saquon walk. It bit them right in the butt right away. Season right after. Philly wins the Super Bowl. So, you know, I don't know what the Giants are thinking. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has much left in the tank, to be honest with you. Stafford, you know, I don't know what's going on with there. His wife is too outspoken. She has so much to do with his career. And at this point, he has a Super Bowl already, cup left. So now it's even more pressure. I mean, you still have the superstar and superhuman Nakua there. But, you know, I don't understand that as well. The NFC just keeps getting tougher and tougher. So, you know, it's definitely weird situations where these free agent quarterbacks are going, and you really don't know how much you have in the draft. So I think the Giants should be more inclined to rebuild at this stage. They know they're at the bottom of the NFC East. I don't think Aaron Rodgers would do much, but, you know, it is that push. You're not really transplanting him. He's comfortable there. It's the same building, like you said. So, you know, you get acclimated, you get neighbors. Like you said, I don't know if they would bring in Adams, but you definitely have to entertain bringing in a running back. So the Giants are a tough read, just like my Cowboys. And the NFC East is going to be controlled by Philly and Washington for quite some time, unless these teams make some major acquisitions or great draft picks.
Well, I will say better coaching staff than with the Green team in New York. If that were to happen, throw that out there. But a lot of offseason to go, Duane. I know this will take about 19 different twists and turns throughout the offseason. All right.
You had to hear, Jeff, you had to hear the guys, 1 second. You had to hear the guys in New Orleans. You know, I'm on with Jimmy Ott.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, forget it. Charles Hattegriff went on a 20-minute rant about the Saints and their disarray and keeping Carr and how could they do this? So there are so many scenarios and so many NFL franchises that are in disarray. It's great.
Well, look, I wish someone would dish. Will Tyrod Taylor or Jameis Winston be a week one starter somewhere? And I would very happily. I don't think so on that one, Duane. I'll take the no on that one if you're willing to give me that price.
What about Zach Wilson?
Moving along. I want to go to the NBA with you, Duane. We haven't really gone to the NBA much with you, but there is a huge game tonight. Cleveland and Boston, top two teams in the East. Celtics are only 2.5-point favorites, and it just got bet to 1.5 at some other shops as well. 234. What's the action been so far in this game tonight? And then I'll ask you the second part right now. If these two teams meet in the playoffs, do you give Cleveland, who's been better in the regular season, with home court, a good shot to beat Boston? Let's be real, Boston would still be favored in that series regardless without the home court, Duane.
Yeah, that's a tough read. I'll tell you. The Celtics, they know how to win. They definitely know how to play playoff basketball. But Cleveland has been so impressive. I mean, they destroyed the Knicks the other day. They're destroying the NBA in the regular season. But just like I said, it's the regular season. Donovan Mitchell playing at a top level. But, you know, Tatum, Brown, all those guys, Porzingis, they're just such a well-rounded team and well-coached. And, you know, they're definitely going to be so tough to beat. The Celtics definitely put, a fear into me as a Knicks fan, and definitely they are still the top dog. Despite what you do in the regular season, it's what matters is playoff time, and that's plain and simple. So we'll see if Cleveland could transpire this over. They have a great head coach and a great coaching staff as well. So they've made a lot of noise. A lot of these teams have found themselves. You know, you look at the East, team like Detroit found themselves. The Knicks, they're kind of shaky. I mean, they can't beat the top teams. So, you know, when you look at what Cleveland and Boston has to beat, I think they could definitely handle the teams that are in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you got teams like Philly that just fell apart, falling off the map. The Heat falling off the map with the Jimmy Butler problem. So it's definitely a two-team race, in my opinion, but I think the Celtics are still the better team.
Duane, I'll say this, and I've been looking at basically exactas for the finals at this point. I have a very hard time seeing a scenario, barring injury, of course, that we don't get Boston, Oklahoma City in the NBA. It feels like we're on a collision course at this point. The East, I don't trust Cleveland in beating Boston in a 7-game series. The Bucks are not good enough. The Knicks have been terrible against good teams. There's no one else in the East that makes sense. On the West end of things, Memphis isn't beating Oklahoma City in a 7-game series. Denver, I don't think is. I just don't think Denver is the defense in order to hang in a 7-game series, unless if Jokic goes beyond nuclear. And then there's the Lakers, who are so intriguing with this Luka trade, but again, I have questions about their defense. So, Duane, I'm very close to. It's about plus 190 right now. I know that's not a great price on an exact matchup, but I see a very hard time not seeing Oklahoma City and Boston when it's all said and done in the finals. Who wins? I lean OKC, but it's Boston going for back-to-back and the first go-around in that deep in the playoffs if OKC gets there.
How great is Gilgeous-Alexander?
Amazing.
I mean, this kid is a beast. You're looking at a team that is now 9 games ahead of the next opponent, which is the Grizzlies in the Western Conference. So a lot of these teams, you touched upon it, Jeff. You are the man, definitely. I mean, look at it. Grizzlies, no defense. Nuggets, no defense. Lakers, no defense. Watch out for the Rockets. The Rockets are a young team that could definitely make some waves in the playoffs. I've been, doing pretty well wagering on this team, engaging certain spots where I feel that they could be competitive. And they're definitely an up-and-coming team. And their coaching staff definitely has a great NBA coach. So, they definitely can make some noise. But I don't see a team really beating OKC unless the Joker gets crazy and Denver actually does start to play a little defense. Lakers, you don't know. I mean, Luka is the man. And definitely if he has a chip on his shoulder and gets agitated enough, he's already been to the finals, let alone with LeBron James. This team could definitely be tough. Reeves is a great point guard. He's a great player. They have other assets on that team. So the Lakers are very dangerous, but I think OKC is hands and above in the West, and definitely it's going to be hard not to get that OKC Celtic matchup in the NBA Finals. And when you have matchups like you said, Eastern versus West, that's got to be by far the lowest price. I mean, we don't have that up at the Rampart and South Point currently, but that is by far the matchup that everybody is anticipating. And the NBA starts to get repetitious as you get late in the season. A lot of these teams have a tendency to give up. So you got to watch how bad these lower teams, start to play. And that definitely becomes a factor, because if you don't have to exert yourself when you're the Celtics or OKC up until the playoffs and you could get rested and healthy, that even makes it more intriguing for that matchup. So the Lakers are definitely one of the options in the Western Conference. Houston Rockets, Denver, I think those teams are right there. No discredit to John Morant. He's playing a fabulous brand of basketball, but like you said, nobody plays defense like OKC. So the Eastern Conference has a few more teams that could play a little more solid defense than the West, the run and gun West, in my opinion.
Just so to throw these prices out there, I'm using FanDuel because these numbers for the exact matchup is not really readily available here in Nevada. So Boston OKC is plus 190. The second shot is Cleveland and OKC at plus 550. So that just kind of tells you what it is at this point. By the way, Boston is still your betting favorite to win the title at some shops, and some shops have Oklahoma City, depending on where we're at right now, Duane. I want to go to hockey. and then we'll pivot back to college hoops before we let you go. Duane, the goaltending has been shaky since coming back out of the Four Nations. The overs have been really good for the most part. What do you make of that? With the fact that, hey, we're now a week in, and I mean, yesterday Vegas scored 5 goals in the first period by themselves in a game that only had 12. Duane, yesterday there was in the league only 3 games that had less than 6 goals in it yesterday. It just was goalapalooza yet again in the NHL.
Yeah, definitely. You got to keep your eye on these goaltending situations. I mean, we all know Connor Hellebuck. We all know, the top goalies. But even Igor Shesterkin, like you said, he got lit up that opening night. I mean, the Rangers gave up like 8 or 9. So it definitely becomes important down the stretch, especially in the Western Conference, to get really good goaltender play. And that's what the Vegas Golden Knights challenge will be. But Adin Hill is very solid. I mean, this is a guy who won a cup, so don't sell him short. And on the other side, in the Eastern Conference, you got Logan Thompson, who's anchoring Washington, and the revitalization of Alexander Ovechkin. So you have a lot of great goal scorers now, Jeff, when you look at it. Look at the Eastern Conference. I mean, guys like Austin Matthews, they put the puck in the net, and that's what it's all about. Even the Montreal Canadiens, Cole Caulfield is amazing. I mean, this kid's going to definitely get 40 goals, and he's a youngster. He's only in his second or third season. So, a lot of teams have a lot of scoring power. It's just, can the coaches come up with a solidified defensive scheme? You saw Patrick Roy. He went crazy on the Islanders. I loved them last night, and they got the job done. Ilya Sorokin is definitely a top goaltender. Vasilevsky is there. These guys will come around, but that was a big break that nation's for. So, a goaltender is all about rhythm. I'm a student of the NHL. You keep it going. You're in rhythm. You start to shut teams out. You start to play well. When you have these extended breaks in the middle of the season, it isn't like the NBA where it just takes you one game to get back going. You might have a poor game. You have a little jet lag, but then you get going. In the NHL, it's much more difficult because you're traveling. You're going across the country. You have to be ready and prepared. You don't know how the backup goaltenders are going to react to that break because they don't get much action to begin with when they're playing behind a superstar. But the guys like Connor Hellebuck and definitely, the Florida goalie tandem, this is why they're at the top of the NHL. Logan Thompson has been just unbelievable. The teams with great goaltending are at the top of the conferences right now. Keep that in mind, Jeff.
Duane, before we let you go, I want to go over to college hoops. I really do think at this point, we talked about it a little bit last week on Free Throw Friday, and then Vinny and Chris and I will be back at 2:00 this afternoon. But I'm ready to move Houston into the category with Auburn and Duke. And, the betting odds say that because Houston now is tied with Florida for the third shortest odds to win the title here at the South Point and Up at your shop. But it's so weird for a team that is now a projected number 1 seed and a team that now has moved from the AAC to the Big 12 and dominated the Big 12 back-to-back years. It feels like the Cougars are going under the radar. And unlike in years past where they could not shoot the 3, they can shoot the 3, Duane. I think we have a 3-headed monster at the top now with Auburn, Duke, and Houston.
Yeah, definitely, Jeff. I mean, you look at it, they're the top 3 teams in the Ken Palm. So, I can't disagree with it. I think that definitely Houston is playing unbelievable right now. And, it's always because of Kelvin Sampson. He is such a great coach. I mean, he's a hands-on coach. He's unbelievable. I saw your top 7 teams. I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. St. John's, they're right there. I mean, look at it. Rick Pitino has this team playing so well. They're going to win the Big East. I don't know if they're a shoe-in for the tournament, but, this is the first time this is a top 10 team. We know Duke has the superstar player. Auburn is the best team in the country. I told you this, from the start of the season. I still believe it. They were able to beat Alabama. Alabama has to hit those threes, like you said, Jeff, for them to be right there. But they're solid as well. Florida is solid. We have so many good teams, but it seems like the top 15 teams are much better than the remainder. But come tournament time, anything's possible. These mid-range conferences and these lower seeds always seem to upset and find a way. A lot of people, a lot of these kids, they cringe under the pressure, even if they're on the number 1 or 2 team in the country. So, I definitely think Auburn is still the best. I think Houston belongs right there with Auburn and Duke. Just like I said, Sampson is one of the best coaches in America. Florida, look at how many SEC teams are right there. Look at those odds right now, and you could see that it's SEC top heavy. But don't think that St. John's or Kentucky couldn't beat any of those top teams that are above them. They're definitely right there. Even a team like Michigan State is playing very well. Michigan has played well this whole season. They have an upset chance. They're 40-1. That's great odds. And UConn, they're going to make the tournament just because they're UConn and they want to see if this train could keep rolling. But I think it sort of started to backfire on Coach Early. You get too outspoken and you get too crazy and it falls apart.
I will say, Lenardi came out with a new bracket this morning. You kind of 9 seed with Duke in round 2. That's a little interesting.
They can beat them.
They're capable.
Yeah.
More likely. Well, keep in mind here, Duke is going to get first and second round games at Raleigh this year, which is essentially a home game. So
yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
And Dickie V is back, right? So I'm sure they'll have him announcing the games and maybe break out Coach K to announce a few games.
So I will say, Duane, you mentioned the list I had 11 earlier in the week. I had 11.
I'm sorry.
I omitted Tennessee because I just don't trust them to win 6 straight games because of that offense. Iowa State, I'm concerned about Gilbert's availability moving forward. Very much concerned about that knee injury that's going on. The fact that it kind of popped out of nowhere and now it's like, oh, he's missed a few games. That's never a good sign when that type of injury happens and it pops out of nowhere like that. Those are the only teams on the left side. And Arizona. I don't trust Arizona. It's Tommy Lloyd in the tournament. Don't trust them at all. But that's the only teams on the left side of that sheet that I don't have. And then the only one on the right I have is Missouri. But they're going to be draw dependent as it is for everybody. All right, Duane Colucci, everyone. Rampart, race and sportsbook director up there. Duane, do you have any horse racing for the weekend or do we have to check back later on that?
No, definitely. Yeah, we have a lot of great races, and come and join us at the Rampart because we're going to have it fired up on the video wall. You got the Fountain of Youth this week. Definitely that's going to be one of the top races. I have a horse right here in the Fountain of Youth. Keep your eye on this horse, Burnham Square. It's Ian Wilkes. You get Edgar Zayas. He's about 5-2 morning line. I think they're going to bet him, but you have a monster in there, Sovereignty, with Bill Mott's trainee there, and Junior Alvarado, that definitely a lot of people are anticipating watching this horse on the Derby Trail. I also have a horse in Santa Anita over the weekend. They have a big prep race there. I like Journalism. Bob Baffert has, I believe, 3 entries in the race, and definitely he's going to win the race. It's just a matter of which horse. I like Journalism. Barnes is definitely going to take the most action. That's the name horse. Baffert perceived this as the number 1 Derby contender. The horse broke its maiden. Kind of a sprinter. He has to, prove to everybody that he could go the classic distance of the Kentucky Derby. I think Umberto Rispoli will have Journalism in a better position, and I like his chances there. So we have a couple of horses. The Gotham also is this weekend in New York. I'll have a pick on that a little later on as I start to formulate my numbers and crunch the magazines and all that, Jeff. So, a great weekend of horse racing. Now you just have so many Kentucky Derby preps that keep going and going. So, let's keep our eye on these Derby preps and the health of a lot of these horses. It becomes so important if you're on the Kentucky Derby Trail. Gather as much data as you can, but there's a couple of picks for you. I like that Burnham Square. I think he could definitely make some noise. He won his last race at Gulfstream. He's going to win again.
Duane, it's always a pleasure, man. We'll see you again next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Jeff. You do the same, and come out to the Rampart. I'm looking forward to seeing you pretty soon.
Now you'll see me soon enough, Duane. I can tell you that those conference tournament days are pretty darn good. Let's just go with that. To put it politely, you're the best, my friend, Duane Colucci. Everyone. All right. Before we get out of here, JR won again. JR won again. The trivia question today was on February 20. Oh, actually, that's the answer. Only one player in NBA history has recorded 12, 12, and 12. That's 12 points, 12 rebounds, 12 assists in their first game against their former team. And who was it? Oh, it happened earlier this week. It was Luka Doncic. Oh, that's who it was. I'm surprised it took that long for everyone to get that. Maybe it was just such a trick question from our guy Vince that it's like it couldn't have possibly been Luka. It just happened on Monday. But it was Luka. He did it earlier this week against Dallas in that win where the Lakers did not cover, as we know. So, all right. We are back here tomorrow morning at 8:30. We are back here this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Myself, Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews. Get you ready for the weekend in hoops. And then I'll be talking about 120 games tomorrow morning. So that will be fun, as it always is on the Saturday. So Jerry, Vince, Sean, Drew Dog, thank you all. And Ryan as well, thank you. I'm Jeff Parles. Thank you to everyone who watched, listened here on Sports by the Book. We'll see you again at 2 o'clock right here at the South Point Studio.